Joining the military. Somebody might come out of school and they say, I don't know what I want to do with life. I'm really directionless. I don't have a job. You're like, oh, you should join the military, right? There'd be like, you'd suggest it for people. Is there ever a person that could give you a set of conditions where like, I don't know, dude, you'd be like, Shaolin for 2 years would be perfect for you. Yeah.
This is actually a very complicated subject. China is not a country that is as rich as the United States, and there's still a lot of people who cannot afford to go to school. So for a lot of those people, they send their kids to a Kung Fu school. They don't always send their kids to the Shaolin Temple, but there are so many Kung Fu schools. In that city that the Shaolin Temple is, Dongfeng, there are so many Kung Fu schools. There's one Kung Fu school, it's the biggest in the world, with around 50,000 students. So a lot of...
Can I ask, when they, well, two things. One, just in what you said when you mentioned that it's a poor place, my understanding is when you're in, I'll say broadly, like the West, we've got like rural areas and urban areas, right? We've got cities and kind of like country areas. In China, there's a massive discrepancy between like your big cities and your rural areas where people are still living like like quite significantly different lifestyles than what you expect like a small city in Germany, right?
Of course, yeah.
Okay, for comment for the audience. And then the second question, when you say they send their kids to Kung Fu school, does this include like
this
normal
includes everything? Yes,
reading?
This even includes like some
like
reading
education?
comprehensions.
Okay.
This includes like culture class, it's called 文化课 in Chinese. It's like culture class, which means you learn a bit of history, some Chinese...
Is it free? Like, is it paid for by...
No, you have to pay. You have to pay for it. But you have to understand the kids that you see in Kung Fu schools. How to put this? No parent with money would ever send their kid to a Kung Fu school in China. Okay. Nobody ever. Oh, it's raining. Yeah, it would never happen. Every Chinese person want their kid to go to a good school and go to college and get a good job. Kung Fu schools is not where you want your kid to go.
Okay, so if you go to a Kung Fu school, are you going to be competitive for universities in China?
Oh, definitely not.
Okay,
You're not going to university.
But it's probably better than having nothing at all,
yes,
right?
but exactly. So what a lot of kids who go to Kung Fu schools for like 12 years of their lives, what they do is they go to the military after, or they become bouncers, or they go to the police, or they open their own Kung Fu school, or they want to become actors, do choreographies. But so people try to make something out of it. And I think it's kind of a cool alternative. Like if you really can't send your kid to school, you don't have the money, and you don't want to send them into just work, I think, why not Kung Fu school? I think it's great. Now the conditions there are rough and the kids are treated in a rough way, but it's better than nothing, I think.
Rough as in like physically?
Everything. It's rough in every possible way you can imagine. Yeah.
So for a day in like a Kung Fu school, it's basically like a normal school, except instead of recess, you learn like a martial art or what?
Yeah. So
How much time do you spend?
Imagine like we have a word in German called Internat. Is that the same in English?
Oh, internet. Yeah, we have that.
Like you live in the school. No, not internet.
Like boarding school.
It's a boarding school is what we call it.
A boarding school. Yeah, it's like a boarding school. You live in a dorm with like 20 other kids. You wake up very early in the morning, running, Kung Fu, more Kung Fu, more Kung Fu, more Kung Fu. And then maybe in the afternoon, 1 hour of like cultural classes. Then maybe in the evening, 1 more hour of learning the characters and more Kung Fu, more Kung Fu, more Kung Fu, cooking, cleaning.
Oh, wow. So it's most of the time is actually dedicated towards like the physical practice of Kung Fu.
In a Kung Fu school, 100%. Yeah.
Okay.
And is it built around just physical conditioning or is there a lot of sparring or?
This really depends on the school.
Okay.
The question of sparring is complicated because sparring means pressure testing, and you don't need pressure testing for being good at Kung Fu, for performing, right? A Shaolin monk can do the most beautiful, amazing Kung Fu form, and he's never sparred in his life. He doesn't need that. So I think it's kind of...
Yeah, because I'm curious, because in the United States, martial arts for us is very like extracurricular. Like it's a thing you do for fun, and then usually, hopefully, you either do your whatever you need to test for belts, or you like do your competitions, your fighting competitions. But for the Kung Fu here, it's basically just physical conditioning for what you're talking about.
Yeah,
right?
you have to think about there's no extra curriculum there. It's just that's your life. That's your life. You have nothing else. But what was I saying in the beginning? What did we start with? I want to say something about the temple.
Oh, so I asked you why it was important because you're talking about preserving it, but I'm curious, like, why should we care?
So then go ahead. We're talking about preserving it.
Yeah, and you were talking about how they could change something.
How they could change direction. So I think if the temple, like imagine this, so the Shaolin Temple is very interested in sort of perpetuating Chinese culture. That's what they want. Bro, you can go to, I'm a Shaolin disciple. When people hear this, they think, oh, so cool, she's a Shaolin disciple, it's so official. And I have even a Buddhist passport where it has my Buddhist name on it. And I had to do is it called an oath? I got a ceremony with the abbot where I had to repeat after him this Buddhist, I think it's called an oath. Is that a word?
Basically, yeah. Take your oath, yeah.
And you think it's so cool and it's so epic. And to me, it means a lot because I was there for 3 years and I had a very deep connection to that place. So for me, it meant a lot. But then it means a lot for me, you could go there tomorrow, go to the temple, pay the money, and they'll make you a disciple. So in a way, it doesn't mean jack shit. It means nothing. Is
there like an elevate? Are there belts or any kind of ranking?
No. Oh, they actually
There's
are.
There's got to be something.
They actually are now. They have introduced that recently, but I'm not part of the sort of temple community anymore, so I don't know much about this. But so the temple could change direction if it actually embraced being a Buddhist place of worship again. Like if they close down the Shaolin Temple scenic area, remove all tourists from going there, remove all foreign students. I know it would even suck for people like me, right? I benefited from the temple opening up. If it was what it was supposed to be, I would have never had the chance. So I understand it's a little bit hypocritical, but I'm just, being honest about it. And if they closed down and they were a remote temple and focused again on Buddhist teachings, because the warrior monks don't learn Buddhism at all, none, almost zero. And if they did that, then the Shaolin Temple would always remain this sort of mystical place. So while traditional martial arts become increasingly irrelevant, the Shaolin Temple would retain this image of, they have these bald monks in China somewhere in the forest and nobody can go there. It's remote. Maybe there's a big fence around it. The government says, hey, you can't go there. These are monks. And every once in a while you would see them and there's like secret footage of them doing their stuff. Then I think the Shaolin Temple would remain relevant.
Like the pandas.
What pandas, bro?
Because there's very few of them. They're kept in secret areas, and when they see them, it's a really big deal. And
Yeah, but you have pandas in zoos and shit.
We'll be like,
we don't have pandas here, right? Aren't there like 14 pandas in the world?
Wait, what?
Aren't pandas like almost dead because they stopped?
No.
Cut this out.
Don't cut it out.
What
No, so do you get what I'm saying?
No. So I understand what you're saying. I imagine the challenge, the balance is going to be you can have a thing that's like super secret and crazy or whatever, but if nobody really knows about it at all, or if there's no way for them to make money, then how do they fund it?
Right, but imagine this: if the temple was this sort of secret place, tourists can't go,
More
anything,
mystical.
but then the government could promote it in a much more effective way. They make a documentary maybe every once in a while and show the place, and then the place would also be more genuine. People would actually be Buddhists there.
week-long festivals you could sell. stuff like
Yeah,
that.
and stuff like this. And maybe once a year tourists can go, and then you see these crazy acrobatics. And then even though that wouldn't change the fact that Kung Fu would become less relevant to people, but the Shaolin Temple could retain relevancy. It would always be this place that people would think about. Wow, Shaolin, I've heard about this. I've seen the footage. I've seen the stuff. It's so amazing. But they're not doing this. They're going the complete opposite route of opening everything, more business, more money, getting more people in. And I think they're destroying it.
Why should anyone care about it?
What do you mean? Nobody has to care about anything.
Tell me, like, what is that? Well, you went there for 3 years.
Yeah.
I would hope, or I would think you took something. There's something that you left there feeling like, I'm glad that I experienced this because of whatever reason.
Well, to be honest, the best thing that came out of my time at the temple, I always say, what?
It's your wife.
Yes, so? What's your problem, bro?
That's lame. Women are
How is it
temporary.
lame?
Women are temporary. Shaolin is forever, okay? Focus on the temple experience, okay?
No, I will say it right now. The best thing that happened to me in my whole life is that I met my wife at the temple. There's nothing you can do about that.
Now
bro.
there's a bunch of incels going there to try to hit on the women. Great.
Is
Now
there
you
a
just
lot of
ruined
women
it.
that do?
Not
like,
a lot, but every once in a while, yeah.
Are you? So women are allowed to do?
Yeah,
Shaolin
you could
and
go
stuff
there
like
and train at the temple.
Okay.
No problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like there's no gender or anything. Was she?
No.
Was she training your wife?
Yeah, she was training too. And so that's the best that I took out of it. But to be honest, when this whole thing started, I didn't go to the temple because I thought, Kung Fu, so cool. I want to learn it. I, without going into the whole story, but I was kind of lost. I didn't know what to do. I didn't want to go back to uni. I didn't want to work. So I want to go somewhere where I can just be by myself, alone, and I can train physically. And my dad had this connection, so he thought, let's go. And then I stayed there ended up for 3 years, yeah.
Did the temple experience? If you said you felt lost, do you feel like it helped you find meaning?
No,
Interesting.
not at all.
So you still feel lost?
So
after the
while I
Shaolin
was
temple?
there, I wasn't lost because you're so busy. It's really like a bubble. You're like in this Shaolin bubble. You're training every day. There's a lot of relationships you got to handle and like the internal politics, and there's always something to do. That's why, in a way, that does give you meaning, right? Because while you're busy, you're not thinking about meaning. While you're busy, you're busy.
Yeah.
You're happy. And I was very happy there overall. And but then when I went back to Germany, even though I already left with the plan of starting a YouTube channel because it didn't work out, 2017 was like the worst year of my life. YouTube didn't work out. Didn't want to go to uni. Shaolin was done. I completely lost again.
What was your proudest accomplishment of the Shaolin Temple stuff? Like by the time you were leaving, what's like, I'm so happy I did this, yeah.
That's a great question, man. Like my proudest accomplishment, I would say, is there were guys that came from the Lufthansa magazine. You know Lufthansa? It's like an airline.
Yeah, airline.
A German airline, a
Yeah.
very big
Okay.
German airline. You've seen them 100%. And they have like these journalists that came to the temple, and that was in I think my second year or my third year. And they were German and I was German. I happened to be the only German guy at that point. And then they did a whole title story about me. And I still have like 5 versions of the Lufthansa magazine that is in every Lufthansa plane where I'm the title star and it's like my picture on it, and that was a.
Were you ever in
I
a
will-
plane where you were on the magazine in the plane?
No, I think this magazine also shut down. The magazine doesn't exist anymore, I think.
Oh, okay.
A few years later. Like I sent a mail to the journalist who ran this thing, and he's like, "Oh, do you still have this?" And he's like, "I don't work there anymore. It's gone."
Do they have magazines in planes anymore?
I don't think so.
I know they used to growing up.
Yeah, I think it's done. I
They
think
would have
it's
all the
done. Yeah.
time.
So maybe I was not one of the last issues, and very proud of that. That was one of my biggest accomplishments, I would say. And I would say generally, I had to perform there a lot in front of people, and I hated performing. I hated it so much. I was always very satisfied with my performance during training, but then you do the performance in front of people, everyone's watching you, and oh my god, your master's watching you, and it makes me very nervous, and I almost threw up once after a performance.
Because like intimidation.
It's scary. It makes me very nervous, and but still I'm overall very proud that I did it. I did perform a lot, and that's
For your
cool.
performances, how many people are in a performance with you?
How many people are performing?
Yeah, like when you're doing like, what would you call a performance? Not a dance, but is it like a routine, like a move, like a what do you call
How
it?
can I explain this?
Is it like Cirque du Soleil where you've got like different people kind of rotating?
You
in
laugh,
and
but
out?
honestly, yeah, kind of.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
imagine like you go to a theater.
Yeah.
There's a stage. Sometimes it's not a stage. Sometimes it's the opposite. Like you are on the sort of concrete floor, and there's stairs that go up, and the abbot is sitting there, and other high-level guests are sitting there, and then they're looking sort of down on you a little bit, and then there's people gathered all around, and you're performing in the middle there.
I guess, or I'm thinking of when you're doing a performance, is it like a solo performance? Are there like 15 other
everything.
people, or like 1,000 other people performing at the same
Oh,
time?
no. So the way it works in the temple is that a performance, I would say, can take from 10 minutes to like half an hour, and you have different people who perform different things. You have a group exercise, those are like maybe 10 to 15 or 20 monks. Then you have single exercise, you have animal forms, acrobatics, and some like feats of strength, like the breaking rocks or breaking sticks, one hand push-ups, one finger handstand, and things like this. So I would say a performance, usually around 20 minutes, half an hour.
What did you do? What was your...
Forms. I was focused on forms. Forms
Okay.
and weapons. Do you know what a form is? It's just like a choreography, a dance.
Would that be like in karate where you like have to learn
Kata.
like the... Yeah. Okay.
Exactly, just like this.
Okay.
Except, of course, much more beautiful because it's kung fu.
Is there lots of acrobatics in the forms that you were
It
doing?
depends. So there are traditional Shaolin kung fu forms that don't have any acrobatics at all. It's very grounded. And
Like kind of like a Tai Chi type
no,
movements?
not like Tai Chi. It's hard to explain. Shaolin kung fu has a lot of internal and external movements, but the
What is
traditional
an internal movement? Sorry.
think of it like this.
Like
Internal
breathing?
forms are more what you're thinking of, Tai Chi, like
Okay.
very slow, very gentle.
Lots of breath work.
Exactly.
Okay.
Breathing work should always be. Sorry, I'm spitting so much. Breathing work should always be part of it, but like external is more the explosive stuff. That's what Shaolin is known for. A lot of screaming, very aggressive, very intimidating.
The stomping.
Yes, my master always said, like when a dog fights, he's not quiet. He like barks and growls? Is that the right term?
Mm-hmm.
Bark is good, yeah.
Yeah, he barks and he goes crazy. That's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to be very intimidating, like scream our lungs out. That's what we're supposed to do. And then you have the acrobatic stuff, and that stuff is acrobatics. Acrobatics mixed in with animal forms usually. They combine
Animal
those
forms?
animal forms. So
Okay, so
eagle.
different forms of different names.
Yeah. So you
Okay.
have eagle, you have the tiger, you have the leopard. What else you have? Snake, frog, duck. What else?
What's your favorite?
Praying mantis. That's what I learned. I
Okay.
learned praying mantis, and I learned a tiny bit of eagle.
How long does it take to do the praying mantis form? Like, is it like a 30-second
Oh, you mean how
form?
long the form takes?
Yeah, so when you're doing a form, like when I'm trying to picture it, is it like a 2-minute, very intense physical exercise type thing, or what should I be
I think
picturing?
a form is very intense physically, but I would say an acrobatic form, or any form, even a traditional form, is maybe half a minute to a minute long.
Okay.
Yeah. You reach, like in a form, you reach these checkpoints where you take a sort of pose. Even in Shaolin, they call it pose. They use the English word like, you do this, blah, 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 and then pose. Continue the next one, pose. Depending how long you pose, right? The form is longer, but it's usually like half a minute to 1.5 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But it's crazy exhausting. You do one form on a performance level, you're done for the day.
Okay.
It's exaggerated, but it's
Just because
screaming.
it's so intense, you're
It is
focused.
so exhausting. The screaming you have to do, the stomping you have to do. My God.
Okay.
It's really hard.
And then you did weapons as well. You said.
Weapons as well.
Okay, all of them, because I know, like, I could be wrong. There's like they've got staffs and they've got like the swingy thingy.
Yeah. The swingy thing.
You know, I think that's the official name actually.
So my weapon was the weapon that everyone has to learn is the staff.
Okay.
The stick, sort of the iconic Shaolin weapon.
Yeah.
It's the staff. But the weapon that I learned after is it's called 九节鞭 in Chinese. It's a 9 sections. What's in English? Nine section whip. 9 section staff. It's a whip. It's a chain whip in English.
The swingy thingy.
Could be a chain whip. A very loud
When
sound.
you say swinging chingy, are you talking about nunchucks?
No,
not nunchucks. It's like it's got like I think a blade on one side.
It's got a small pointy thing at the end and like a flag, and that's what makes a sound.
Yes.
So you do very fast around the neck and everything.
That is
so I
what I'm
learned
talking
this,
about.
and I learned a sword. Yes.
And that's called what? Sorry, the swingy thingy is actually called.
The swingy thing is called a 9节变. Yes. Yeah. And a sword.
Okay. Cool.
So these are the ones that I learned, but I don't think I ever performed my weapons. I only performed traditional forms and sometimes acrobatics, I think.